You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
ABC Mondays. The Bachelor is back, and everyone is falling for America's heartthrob, Joey Graziadei.
Chef's kiss, 10 out of 10.
He's taking another shot at love.
I am definitely ready to find my wife.
But will he find his perfect match?
I am freaking out.
I'm about to lose it.
There's something I need to know.
I'm done here.
I thought it would be easier.
The Bachelor. New Mondays, 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
Since 1979, TireRack.com has been helping people find the right tires for how, what, and where they drive. They sell only the best, like the full line of Bridgestone tires. Test results, ratings, and reviews are there to assist. Or try the Tire Decision Guide to get a personalized tire recommendation. Tires ship fast and free to you or one of over 10,000 recommended installers. In many areas, they offer mobile tire installation that comes to your home or office. Shop Bridgestone tires at TireRack.com.
Hello, folks. I hope everything's good and you are well wherever you are receiving this audio into your ears. I hope everything's good. This is another one that I'm very excited about, and I never, ever really thought was going to happen. Of course, I'm starting to say that more and more often these days, so maybe I should start thinking that things are going to happen. But it's all thanks to you folks for downloading the show and tuning in all the time like you guys seem to do. So thank you so much. And if you could please tell a friend. But I won't bore you with any more just jibber jabber. Well, I will bore you with some jibber jabber because, I guess that's what a podcast is. But here today is a man that I've listened to for years, Mr. Eddie Breckenridge from Thrice. And so, I'm a big Thrice fan. We've talked about it a million times. They are the top dogs for me. So to be able to talk with Eddie about all this stuff was a lot of fun, and I think you'll enjoy this episode. He's a great dude. Go check him out. Go check Thrice out if you haven't already. I can't say enough good things about their music and how much it means to me and how much impact it's had on me over the years. So this was an awesome chat to get to do with Ed. So here we go. Let's get right into it. Boom. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Eddie Breckenridge from Thrice. How's it going, man?
Hello. I'm good.
Awesome.
Considering everything that's going on right now, I'm doing well.
Right. Yeah, same here.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, my listeners know that this is obviously really cool for me because you guys are my favorite band. And so it was awesome to get to hang out with you guys when I interviewed Tepe and ended up hanging out with you most of the time, which was a real treat. So I'm glad we finally got around to doing this. This will be fun.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I always like nerding out about this kind of stuff or just talking about it, kind of picking my own brain sometimes or your brain, of course.
Yeah, whatever brain needs picked, we'll pick it. We'll dig in there. So, I know you guys have done a lot of interviews over the years kind of explaining your backstory and whatnot. So I don't know if I want to get into that as much as I normally do, but maybe what would be interesting for the nerds that listen to this podcast and for myself would be to kind of tell your story through your gear. What did you start with when you guys were first playing, and what are you playing now? I know some of it's the same, but not all of it.
Yeah. Shoot, this is a long tale.
That's good. We got a lot of time, so no worries.
So yeah, when I first started playing, going into the story of the band a little bit is I met Tepe skateboarding, and he was friends with Dustin and had been playing music with him. And just through skating, we were talking about music and found out that we had similar interests in music. And they were talking about starting a band, and I had like a classical guitar and I think maybe some sort of a Yamaha electric, like one of those ones that you get in like a pack with an amp and a pick and that whole deal.
Oh yeah.
Cable.
Mm-hmm.
Just a guitar though, not a bass. So I could put my fingers on the strings and make sounds. Tried to learn a couple like of the classical parts of Metallica songs and stuff, like like Intro to Fade to Black or Sanitarium, or I don't know, just like songs like that.
Yeah, totally.
When we were talking about it, they were like, "Oh yeah, we're looking for a bass player." I was like, "Oh, I could borrow my brother's bandmates," because Riley, my brother, who plays drums in Thrice, was playing in a band with some friends at the time. He had started playing drums after he had a knee injury in high school. So my first bass that I played was I think it was a Mexican jazz bass, through some sort of like Squier guitar amp. So some sort of mini, little like 10-inch speaker, solid state thing.
Right.
So I had that for a bit, borrowed his, and like, I think I might have gone over to Tepe's house and like tried to play along with what they were doing, which is actually really difficult for me when we first started, because I couldn't play and then listen to other people play and play in time.
I understand the struggle.
Yes. I guess that was probably in like 97 or 98, 97 for sure, actually. It was before the band was a band. And then when it became more of a real thing, I went to a local music shop and got one of those Ibanez Sound Gear basses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a pretty common starter instrument for people.
Definitely.
And I had that up until we played our first show. And then I was like, this sucks. I just didn't like it. But a couple of the bands that I really liked had Music Man basses, and I had been saving up money, and I ended up buying a Music Man, which is like a huge expense. I mean, that's like a big buy. It was a Music Man Stingray.
That's a big upgrade.
Yeah. Which is awesome. And it just got me, I just went all in. I started like watching all the videos that you can, like the VHS videos that you can get of like bass players. It's like, I think it's something like Bass Player Magazine puts out or something. So it'd be like Billy Sheehan, who played in Mr. Big, who's like a shredder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just started nerding out about how to play and what to play, and had that Music Band for a while. Should I keep going? I mean, there's a lot.
I mean, here. Yeah, let's go. This is good.
Okay.
This is great.
Okay, so then I went from a Music Man. I think I ended up getting another jazz bass after that.
Like a regular Fender?
It was a Fender Deluxe. So we had recorded, with the Music Man, I recorded both our first EP, which is called First Impressions, and then our first like full length, which was actually like two recording sessions, because we were funding it ourselves. We didn't have a label.
For Identity Crisis? Or something
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for Identity Crisis. And then there was like a local record store that ended up putting it out before Hopeless Subsidy picked it up. But we recorded it with a bass player who was a recording engineer named Paul Miner, who plays in Death by Stereo. I think he still plays. I'm pretty sure he's back in the band now. But he was so good, and he like got me into like Iron Maiden. So I was like digging on Steve Harris.
Nice.
But I had already had this jazz bass, this deluxe jazz, because he played a deluxe P, but I didn't really think about the difference. I was like, oh, it's a deluxe, it's good. And then I noticed that Steve Harris had the P bass, and I was like, shoot, maybe I can put a P bass pickup in this jazz bass. So I ended up having like the local guitar fixer-upper dude, this guy named Tom Reiser. He's like a TR Guitars is his guitar repair thing in Orange County. He ended up putting up, so it's a JPJ basically.
Okay.
Which is like bananas. Didn't sound that great. But yeah, I mean that was my bass for a while until I sold it to another guy. Ended up getting a G&L because because I was big into hot water music,
like everyone.
Jason Blackburn, yeah, and he played a G&L. I think I played that on The Illusion of Safety, that record. I don't remember what. I think at the time I was playing. Once we started like playing shows like that, and we were doing Illusion of Safety and whatnot, I was playing an Ampeg SVT2, which is basically like a SVT classic with built-in EQ. Like it has like a multi-band EQ thing on the front.
Oh, cool!
It's like rack mounted. And then from there, we ended up. What happened? We toured with Face to Face, and I ended up getting a P bass, which I still have today, which is like I've used on tons of recordings. I'm trying to think of the timeline. The timeline seems a little bit screwed up here, though, because I think before Illusion of Safety, I got that P bass. But I did record some of the songs with a G&L. But when we recorded Illusion of Safety, we recorded with Brian McTernan, who introduced us to Cave-In. And then there's Caleb Schofield, the bass player of Cave-In. It's like one of my, everything. Tone. I mean, I try to play as melodically and cool as he did, but it was that introduced me to the Grabber bass.
I was wondering when that was going to come into the timeline.
Yes.
For some reason, I thought it was much earlier than it was. So this is interesting.
No. This is probably like 2001 or 2.
Okay. 2000. Okay, that makes sense. That's close to the time where I started becoming aware of you guys, was around then.
Okay.
And so
actually it had to be 2001. It had to be 2001 because we toured with Cave-In, and we had already recorded Illusion Safety by then, but it just wasn't released because Hopeless/Subsidy. I always say that because Subsidy is like a small imprint on Hopeless. They picked up Identity Crisis, but wanted to like sell it for a bit before we released Illusion of Safety. So we ended up sitting on Illusion of Safety for a bit, but playing with some of the songs live. And then, us touring with Cave-In, I was playing a P bass, but by the end of that tour, I was ready to have a Grabber.
What is it about the Grabber that you like so much? I know you've talked about this a million times, but not to my people.
Yeah, it's an interesting sound. It's similar to a P bass, and then you get like a growl. Like if you're using, I mean, I guess you could get it with your fingers, but if you're using a pick, you can get this really growly tone, especially if you're pushing the amp a little bit, like slightly distorted, not like fully distorted, but slightly distorted. It just has similar to a P bass growl, but then the top end is like notched down into the mids, like the more like centered mids a little bit more. So it's darker than a P bass is. But it also, like in that it's dark, it also gives it a little bit of like an old school kind of like full, like shovey, low end mid kind of sound. Like, I'm trying to think of a band that, like a classic band that would be what I'm talking about. I mean,
I know these things are hard to
even
describe.
like something like the tone of like a band like Cream or something, rather than like the tone of like Chris Squire of Yes, where it's like growly, but it's more of like a top end growl. It's somewhere in between the two, which our sound guy actually says like it has like a shove to it. Like when I hit the note, it will like actually like push air in a way that other basses don't. Like other ones will like be like a low end, like they'll kind of like make your butt rumble, but this one will like kind of like hit you in the chest.
I get that. I know what you're talking about, having listened to you play it a lot. So,
all right. I love it, and they don't play particularly well. Like you can set them up to like feel really good, but like if I were gonna play, you know, a bass for like feeling awesome in my hand, I don't know if I would go with the go with the Grabber, but I've built a couple since, more to like how I would want it to feel, and I can get it to be that way. But the originals, like, I don't know, they weren't like particularly like comfortable to play. They just sound super good.
We might need to even, they're kind of obscure. We might even need to tell people they're a bass made by Gibson. A lot of people might not even know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that. Yeah.
When were the originals produced? Do you know?
I think it's like, I think mid 70s to mid 80s or early 80s.
Oh, for a little.
I think it was kind of like a 10-year period, and I think. Don't quote me on this, but this is what I've heard. That it was kind of like the Gibson like budget bass. So it was like there wasn't a lot to it. It wasn't made with like super nice woods, but it was just kind of like here's a bass. And the other thing that's unique about it is it has a sliding pickup in it. So you can slide the pickup towards the bridge or have it closer to the neck. And as you do that, closer to the neck ends up being a little bit louder and a little bit like the low end drops out, or not the low end. Low end jumps up a little bit and the high end drops out. And if you put it toward the bridge, loses a little bit of volume, and it also ends up being a little bit more punchy and bright.
Which is why yours is taped about in the middle. I noticed.
I have it different for different basses, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Like there's certain ones like where like funny enough, I have an original Grabber. It's like a wine red kind of color, and I use that for a lot of our drop tune songs. Well, extra drop tune, because we're all D standard. Sometimes we drop C. And then our drop tune stuff, the guys play baritones, but I play a bass that is like tune standard. Like if it was E, A, D, G. Wow, I almost forgot for a second there. But then you drop tune the E to a drop A. So it's AADG.
Gotcha.
So I'll use that for songs like The Earth Will Shake and Fire Breather. Any of the ones where it's just like super, super low. Usually a low A note will be like not droning through a lot of it, but that'll be the bottom floor of what everything hits. So a lot of the songs are built around that.
Right. One thing is kind of interesting that, go back to the skateboarding thing. You might find this interesting. Tepe was surprised. The very, very first time I ever heard of you guys was actually in an ad in Slap magazine. There was there was a ad that I'm assuming Subsidy ran, and it had a couple different album covers in it with a little blurb about the band, and Identity Crisis was in there, and it was like, I was like, that sounds interesting. And I kind of remember the blurb even. I don't know why. I don't remember it exactly, but it was like, the dynamics and emotion of hardcore with the melody and harmony of pop punk. And I don't know why that stood out to me, because I didn't even really know what any of that meant at that point. I was pretty young. And I was just like, that looks interesting. And I wasn't old enough to like go to the record store by myself or anything at that point. I think I was like 12 or 11 or something.
Well,
I don't know exactly how old I was, but then like I fast forward a couple years later, and someone was like, "Have you heard this band Thrice?" I was like, "Well, I have heard of that band before," and I couldn't, and so put it in, and that was just like, it was just it for me. But it was kind of a weird time. It was like around when like Artist in the Ambulance came out, like really close
like
to
2003.
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. And then I found Identity Crisis because I recognized the cover from the magazine and jammed on those like constantly. And then somebody was like, "Hey, you know that there's another one?" I was like, "There's another one?" I didn't even know that there was. And I was like, "This is a weird jump." Like I thought it was a weird jump between the two sounds, but I enjoyed both records. And then once I got Illusion of Safety plugged in the middle there, I was like, "Oh, this all makes a lot more sense now." Like,
so you went from Identity to Artist in the Ambulance, and then jump back. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was someone was like, "Yeah, there's another one. There's a one right after." And I was just like, "Oh." It was just this weird. It was a weird progression. The internet existed, but it wasn't really a thing like it is now. So. Like now, if I found a band I was really into, I would know every record that they put out pretty much.
For sure.
But then it was this weird time of discovery. But yeah, that was a weird transition. But I thought you'd like the Slap connection. Tepe is like, I didn't know we had ads in the skateboard magazine.
That's so awesome. Yeah, Subsidy did a lot of really cool stuff for us. Like our first ads. I think it was when Illusion of Safety came out, because Identity Crisis was kind of like a soft release because it was already out, but it was just distributed from this record store basically, or connections that this record store had. But they just kind of like put our album cover in magazines, but then didn't really say anything about what it was. So they were kind of just like creating this sense of mystery, which I thought was really cool at the time, because like everything else was just like, you gotta check this out, it's the coolest next thing or whatever. And then this was just like, what the hell is this picture? It's like the bass player from oh my gosh, why am I forgetting the name right now? His name's Matt Moss. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with my brain? I have a really bad memory with names.
I know that feeling.
Cold War Kids. Okay.
Oh,
the bass player from Cold War Kids did the album artwork. Did the album artwork for Illusion of Safety and Artist in the Ambulance. But he was doing all these really cool pictures and then like flipping the image so you kind of like see it in a weird way that you're not used to. And like, I think like his impact, like his visual impact, did a lot for those, our introduction to a lot of people too, because people are like, what the hell? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just realized also, I don't think I mentioned that with that red drop tune bass.
Okay.
That what I was going to say is I have the pickup all the way to the neck on that one. Like that's how I like to have it with that one, because it's a little bit brighter of a bass overall than my the brown one that I made. Okay.
Gotcha.
I just realized I said I started talking about the drop tuning stuff, but I didn't say anything about my pickup position on that, which is how I segued into it.
Well, I probably interrupted with, here's my crazy story about skateboarding.
No, it's all good.
So yeah, you seem to be a little more like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of what Tefe told me. You seem to be a little bit more into pedals and effects and individual things than the other guys in the band. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes and no. Like I would say I'm more excited about them maybe, but I'm not maybe not as technically savvy as like Tepe might be.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like really good at like figuring all the details out. I'm kind of like, I kind of go at it like I can't see the knobs, I can just hear things.
Right.
So I don't really like know how to get there, but I know what I want to get to. So like I'll just tweak things until I find it. Like compression to me, even though I don't use a compressor on anything, I'm just saying like compression to me is still like a mystery, but I use it when I'm like recording demos, just like tweaking the knobs for that stuff. But like I know how to get what I want, but it's more of like a feel thing than like knowing the technical aspects of it. But I also started building guitar pedals myself like a couple of years ago, so I have learned a little bit more of the technical stuff about effects and whatnot.
What have you built?
So I'm kind of there's a bunch of schematics available online from this thing called General Guitar Gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but they post a bunch of schematics and like parts lists and stuff like that for some of like the older classic guitar pedals you can make. So at the time I was actually working on writing music for a record that I play guitar on, this band Less Art.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, and I was also my lady and I had moved to a studio apartment up in the Bay Area, and I had been doing woodworking stuff when I was down in Southern California and didn't really have the option to do that up there without really investing in like paying for a space or renting it out or I don't know, a bunch of stuff that I would have had to do. So I was like, oh, maybe I can start fiddling with pedals. Oh, another thing that led me into that is, so we were at a school up there, and people would leave stuff in the hallway, and somebody left somebody must have been like an electric engineer student, and it was like a beginner's electronics kind of book, and I started reading it like in the bath. And got super pumped on it, and then ended up getting these schematics, and rather than buying a kit to build, I just went to like a Fry's Electronics, which is also kind of difficult because their parts are named like if you want the same thing that people use in pedals, the parts that they sell are like a different company, so you have to like find equivalent parts.
Right, like
so
really look at the spec.
I ended up, yeah, it's like what, like you look at what, you know, what transistor they used in, like, for example, the first thing that I built was like it was like an MXR boost pedal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called a microamp.
Yeah.
I ended up building that, but finding all the parts, I'd have to like Google I don't remember the name of the company that supplies all the parts to Thrice, but you have to find the equivalent. So I'd like find each part, find an equivalent, not only for like it would be like transistors or diodes or things like that. But if you want just like a resistor, or a capacitor, you can find that, and it's, the value is what you're getting.
Right.
You don't have to find like a specific thing, but I got super nerded out into that and would just like sit all hunched over at this desk and solder for hours. And I don't know, it was super fun. I learned a lot about like gain structures and how to create them and what distortion actually is. I recommend it to anybody that likes building things and being nerdy about things. It's a really cool way to learn about what your stuff is doing.
Yeah, as interested as I am, obsessed with pedals as I am, I've still never built one, which is kind of weird.
You should try. I mean, even if you get like a kit, just being able to like understand, like even in the most rudimentary way, like getting to understand like what is happening in the schematic just by building it, like you see where the chain is going, like it's running into this thing and then it hits these. I mean, different pedals do things, like different distortions do things different ways. Like some distortions, you're affecting the signal before it hits the gain section, and that'll make it distort a different way. And then some, the clipping of the signal ends up happening after the gain. So you end up getting like a completely different type of distortion just through that. It's super cool.
It's not really daunting to me in like that I'm like scared to do it, but I know, excuse me, I know it's going to take me forever to actually assemble it. I'm a Cyclops. And so like, depth perception on small,
literally.
Yeah. Literally. I'm actually the monster from mythology. But like my depth perception is not very good, especially on small detailed things. And so it takes me, like I was soldering together patch cables a few years ago for my friend Leon who runs Pelican Noiseworks. And that's pretty much as easy as it gets from an electronics building perspective. And it took me so long just because it was like, nope, I missed. I missed again. I missed. It was
a lot of that is the gear that you're using too, though. Like you could get one of those. I mean, I probably should use it just because it's strain on your eyes. But like one of those little like, it's like a swiveling kind of arm thing that has a magnifying glass.
Oh yeah, that.
And then also the solder, whatever the
iron.
What the hell? Yeah, the iron. My brain. Like getting like a better quality iron will so drastically like affect how well you can solder. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like how, and also, I'm getting way nerdy. This is like
that's
the
what
dorkiest stuff. But like making sure that the tip of the soldering iron is clean.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I didn't know, that if you're soldering, that makes things a lot quicker, so you don't have to like hold the soldering iron to the wire and the solder, is you actually, it's called tinning, but you put solder on the soldering iron alone, like not touching it to anything.
Right.
And then you put the solder next to the wire and then drop that liquid hot solder into the solder that you're holding and the wire, and it'll immediately heat up rather than like burning the rubber around the wire and all that. Like, yeah, it's a game changer.
Tinning,
but maybe most people know that. Yeah,
I think most of the pedal builders that listen to this know that, but your your general guy like me, I didn't learn that until I was building cables that day. So yeah, it was new to me. But yeah, it does make life a lot easier.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like insanely.
Yep.
So you are very hands-on with stuff. So let's talk about the grabbers that you've built. What did you do? What's different about them?
There's not a lot different. The first one that I made, I ended up getting a grabber bass off of eBay. And the body was actually cracked. And if you like pushed against it, the body, like the crack would kind of open up. And I ended up getting it for like $300, something like that. And it was kind of, I don't know. I don't like dealing with returns or whatever. I'm that guy that probably gets taken advantage of a lot.
Oh no.
But I was just like, screw this. And I had already, at the time, already like built a bass or two actually, which I got into like, out of my parents' garage when I first started playing. I don't know. I saw a book at a guitar store that was like, make your own guitar. And then I don't know. I just figured out I wanted to do it. So I did it. I don't really know what drove me to do it. I wasn't like I like taking things apart and putting things together. But I wasn't really like a woodworker or anything. But building guitars definitely, turned me into more I do a lot of woodworking stuff nowadays. So that grabber, I ended up just taking the pickup out of it and deciding that I was just going to build my own. So I measured out all the, the size of the body. I ended up buying a neck from Warmouth. It's a company that makes like kit guitars, but I ended up just buying a neck. And then, how did I do it? I ended up buying the neck and laminating it was walnut and mahogany. You just put it together. It's like 4 pieces of wood. Basically, it's called book matching. You like cut down across the length of a long piece of wood, and then you flip it and have it against itself. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Wish I could show you with my hands. Trying to describe it with words is a little bit difficult, but yeah, I ended up just building the body and then kind of measuring everything off of the grabber that I had that was busted, and building my own with a lot of crappy tools. I didn't have a bandsaw. I didn't have. I had the sanding that I did with it was with a drill with a disc sander.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Really?
I cut out most of the body with a circular saw.
Dude.
And then used a router to cut into like the side profile. And it was, you can see it. If you ever see, I call it the brown bass, but it's basically like a walnut top grabber. There are parts of it that like are chipped, and then I ended up filling it in. A lot of it is on the side of the bass, but yeah, I built that one in my parents' garage, probably in like 2002.
Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah, and I didn't play it live for years. I brought it as like a backup, but I was afraid to play it because I thought that somehow I had made it in a way that it was all botched, and then I'd start playing it live and it'd just fall apart in my hands or something. But funny enough, now it's like my go-to, and I've been playing it for. I'm trying to think when I first started playing it, consistently. Probably not till like 2007 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the first experience I saw of somebody playing it live was not me. Or having it been played live was not me. It was we were on tour with this band called Veda, or they ended up being called Vedera because I guess there was another band called Veda. We were on tour with them and Under Oath and The Bled.
I remember that tour.
And yeah, and they had their van and trailer stolen, everything. They lost everything. So they ended up riding on our bus and using a bunch of our gear, and their bass player, Jason, played that brown bass. I was like, oh, that thing sounds pretty cool. But like at the time I still had the first Grabber that I got that was this. It was $275. It was an awesome deal, and I got it. It was from a guy that ran a studio, but he got it from this vintage or used guitar shop in the Maryland, like DC area called Atomic Music.
Was that the one that you had at the Roseland there that I noodled on for a second? That was your first. It's kind of a blonde.
No.
Color.
Oh yeah. That was it.
Okay, cool. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's that one. That's the one that I always think of. Like when I think of you playing bass, I think of that bass.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that. I remember that
weird
very well. So, that show rather that at that stop. That was a big one for me and my friends.
Oh, rad. Yeah, that tour was so fun.
It was a good show.
Yeah, good vibes.
It's actually like I'm trying to remember. I've been lucky I've caught you since I've become aware of the band. I've caught you almost every time you came to Portland, except for a couple times where it was like an emergency or something. So I've been following for a while. It was
that's so cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've been harping on on this podcast for a long time, and I know I've converted at least a few listeners, even some that
that message you sent me. So, Thrice, I thought they were like trained.
Yeah. But hey, it worked out.
So good.
It worked out. He finally dove in.
Yeah.
But it was just funny.
I don't mean to laugh at the person. I've made associations like that myself, but it's just so crazy too, because when I think of what people think of what we sound like, it's always like, oh yeah, that like they're like screamo or whatever we were when we were doing Illusion of Safety or Artist in the Ambulance. But I always think that that's what people think we sound like, but we've done so many other things since. It's so weird, but to hear that maybe we're kind of like trained.
Yeah.
Just like some random name association that is pretty funny.
Yeah. I've definitely done that with things before. And then it's like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought it was.
For sure.
Let's dig into this a little more. So that was cool. But it's a thing because I've talked about you guys on this show so much, and I get messages semi-regularly. It's just like, okay, I've never listened to Thrice. I'm going to start listening to them because you won't shut up about them. Where do I start? And I'm like, I don't know. What are your tastes? What are you into? Because they've done so much, so many different sounds and vibes that it's hard for me to actually even direct people sometimes.
Me too. It's like if you were to make like a flight of Thrice, it'd be like 4 songs or something that would like represent us. It'd be.
Yeah, I have a hard time. I was going to say I have a hard time. I've done it. I've been asked to do it with 10 songs before, and I was like, that's almost enough to get a good range. But even still, Like I definitely had to leave out some of my favorites just for the sake of variety, type of thing.
Yeah. Do you ever have the thing where I notice I have this a lot, where I'm like kind of pumped on something, like I'm like, yeah, this is so cool, and then you like show it to somebody, but you listen to it with their ears like in mind, and you're like, oh, maybe it's just not really what I thought it was or something like that. Like I do that all the time. I'm like, like it's interesting, like how much just there's so many different types of perceptions of music, unless you don't have the same context of like what you like or what you enjoy, or the history of what you've listened to, or why, this is similar to like this vibe or something. Like out of all those contexts that create like your own brain, music, I'm sure sounds totally different to totally different people,
Well, yeah, I was talking about something similar with my wife yesterday, where like somebody I was talking to, I can't remember who it was. They were like, man, you just don't get Dylan, talking about Bob Dylan. And I'm like, I like Bob Dylan. Like, I don't not like Bob Dylan, but I'm not one of those people that think that everything he has ever done is just amazing.
Yeah.
And he, his response was, you just don't get Dylan. And then I was like, and then like later he like called to apologize. I remember who it was now, but I'm not gonna like out him. And I was like, I'm not offended. You're right. I don't understand it in the same way that you do. Like clearly, because you
perfectly said. Yeah.
You enjoy it more than I do in different ways. So saying that I don't get it is accurate, because I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I will someday. I don't know, but it's when I was talking to my wife and telling her that story, I was like, I have artists that I really enjoy that I don't I can understand why somebody wouldn't, I
oh, for sure.
I could show my dad some Tom Waits, and I think he would like some of it, and some of it he would really hate. And I really like Tom Waits. So, but I understand why some other people wouldn't. It's just different strokes for different folks, type of thing.
For sure.
The good news is there's so much out there that there's something for everyone.
So much. Yep.
So you talked about...
Even if it's crap. No.
Your favorite band is terrible, by the way. So you talked about Cave In. Who are some of your other influences? Like on you personally?
Ooh. Wow. I mean, very few people like bass specific, I would say. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of bass players that I really like, but I didn't really gravitate specifically towards bass. It was more like things that are trying to be expressed. But bass players, like there's this guy, Brian I don't know, Brian Dejean, maybe, I don't know. He played bass in the band No Knife.
Okay.
And No Knife just was like a hugely influential band to Thrice as a whole. I think they were doing, like, when we were like way into hardcore, they were doing something that was very interesting in like a technical and percussive way that I felt kind of like made me question actually what it was that I liked about heavier, harder music. And it was like more of like this like visceral like attack of it. And this band No Knife does that, but it's in a really melodic, but also like dissonant kind of way. Like the songs are more, I hate saying this word, but they're like more poppy than a lot of what I would listen to, but it's not pop. It's more like just this like angular indie music, but the bass playing is always playing these super melodic, like drivey kind of bass lines, or really like pockety bass lines underneath these guitars that are doing these like kind of stabby, more like angular, dissonant kind of things. And it just that whole vibe turned my brain inside out. And that bass player Brian, Caleb Schofield from Cave-In, huge. I mean, everything, his bass tone, his way of playing, his way of screaming, everything. He's just so good.
Cave-In is amazing. Yeah, he was so awesome.
So good. Also Brian Cook from the band Botch.
Oh man.
Also a grabber player. At the time I think he plays for those electrical audio, and I don't know what electric guitar company.
Yeah, the aluminum
basses. Yeah.
Those are cool too.
I think he plays those now. I've never actually seen one in real life.
I've played the guitar. They make more than one guitar. I've played one of their guitars. I played the King Buzzo, signature.
Oh, awesome.
I honestly didn't really understand. I loved them aesthetically, but I didn't really understand the whole aluminum guitar thing until I played that one, and I was like, oh, I get it now. This is really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So they're
I'm gonna have to check it out. Find a way to check it out. So that, and then also, let me think. One other bass player would be Joe Lally, for sure. Fugazi bass player.
Yeah, definitely.
His brain and the way, another thing where there's like this like visceral thing happening, and then he's kind of like laying it down, and the way that he interacts with the drums. I don't know, that I just love that. But then we'll also say like there's also a lot of other I ended up taking a course in like junior college that I went to. It was history of jazz class, and I had been a fan of jazz music, but not really. I just thought it was cool. It was like good like background music, but then when I took this class, kind of changed my brain in a lot of ways. And I really like fell in love with there's I guess he's a bass clarinet player, but also a saxophonist and a flute player named Eric Dolphy. His music, Bill Evans piano playing, and his sense of melody and space and feel. And then I'm going to try and ramp through the next things because I'm talking long about this, but there's a band called Talk Talk. They were like a pop 80s band, and then did these two amazing, really like weird post-rock records. One's called Laughing Stock and the other one's called Spirit of Eden. That band changed my brain. Oh, shoot. And a bass player that introduced it to me is a guy named Nate Burke that played bass in a band called Frodis, also another one of my favorite bass players. If you haven't heard Frodis before, you should check out an album called, I think it's called And They Washed Their Weapons in the Sea, and We Washed Our Weapons in the Sea. I should know this because I've listened to the record 8,000 times. But
did you guys do a cover of one of their songs?
We did. We did it on Alchemy Index.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Which song was it?
It's like it's one of the Earth songs. It's called The Earth Isn't Humming.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. This is all coming back.
And I ended up playing it on an acoustic guitar with one bass string and a couple super detuned strings. It was really weird.
Oh, really?
But yeah. Probably like broke the acoustic guitar a little bit, but it was fun.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
They're an awesome band. They were not around for a super long time, but they were like peers with like bands like Refused or I don't know. They're kind of in that like mid late 90s kind of like more spazzy hardcore thing, but We Wash Our Weapons in the Sea is like kind of them crashing that spazzy thing into something a little bit more melodic and epic, and it really resonates. It's a really good record.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, please do. I mean, if you don't hear us influenced by that, there's something wrong, because that band super awesome.
Well, let's see. Before we're getting down to the last little bit here, but there was a couple questions from the Facebook group. I did this thing that I always do where I forget to make a post in there until like just a little bit before I'm recording, so no one has time to actually read it. But there was
we did set this up pretty last minute, so
yep. But there's a couple questions in there. Well, there's a couple train jokes because a lot of people seen that post. So there's.
I hope that guy doesn't feel bad about that. I mean, it's.
I don't think so.
Something that we all do.
It's all in good fun. We poke fun at each other in there occasionally. It's a good place.
Awesome.
It's a good group.
That's good.
Tavo Garcia Vega, he just wants to know if you remember his buddies from Ember. He said, I was the guitarist in the early beginning in Riverside before they all left to relocate to Reading. So I guess there's some sort of connection there. Do you remember Ember?
I do remember the band name. I don't remember what they sounded like.
There's a lot of SoCal folks in there, so I figured somebody would probably have a connection somewhere, but that was just kind of a random one. Tavo also builds pedals. He makes...
Oh, rad.
Yeah, he makes them under the brand and amps and some other stuff, the Nocturne Brain, and he's been on the podcast before. So.
Oh, I'll have to... I'll check that out. I'll check out the episode and any sorts of things that he's building. I love.
Does a lot of like rockabilly inspired stuff. It's pretty rad.
Oh, rad.
Let's see. Andrew Span. We already talked about the Grabber, so there's that. He wants to know about the guitar that you modded that you use in Less Art. I don't know anything about that, so I'd like to know that too.
Well, it's not modded. It's like a Stratocaster style guitar, but I kind of like widened it a little bit, so it's like it's thinner and wider than a normal Stratocaster, and then I ended up bulking it up around the neck body joint a little bit more, because I believe in some sort of black magic that if you have more connection in that area, you will it will help its resonance. I don't know if that's totally true, but so it's like a Strat. It's like a thin Strat though. It's like from front to back. I think it's like what is it? It's like an inch and a inch. I don't know. I should actually measure it. So it's more like an SG thickness than like Strats are pretty bulky. I don't know. I feel like they are. Maybe it's because I play Grabbers, and Grabbers are kind of thinner than most basses, but they're also wider. That's probably why I ended up doing that to this guitar. But it's a weird mixture of a Strat, a Telecaster. It has like a Telecaster, the ashtray bridge with a Telecaster pickup. Then it has a Strat middle pickup, not pick. And then a P90 neck pickup. So it's this weird, I call it an options caster. I mean, funny thing is I play it on the middle position a lot with Less Art. Something just about like the detuned, we tuned, it would be C standard or drop A sharp. Something about single coil chimey Strat pickup with the detune stuff, and then we don't really distort that much. It's kind of like clean and it breaks up if you play hard, unless there's like a part that calls for something more fuzzy or whatnot. Yeah, but I mean, that guitar's fun. It's fun to play. I ended up getting a Warmoth neck for that as well. It's an all rosewood neck. I don't know if it's actually rosewood. Maybe they just say it is. It's like rosewood. So it's like front and back, like fretboard and the whole neck. And it's kind of like a fat, what do they call it? Like a boat.
Yeah, like a 50 style or something, or a baseball bat.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
That's awesome.
I really like the all rosewood necks. I've only played them on Telecasters, but I really like how they feel, and they look cool too.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like an off-white color with the rosewood neck, and then I make these wood pick guards. It has like a walnut pick guard that I cover with epoxy, so hopefully it doesn't get all scratched up. But I was inspired by seeing Omar from Mars Volta at the drive-in, at the drive-in was playing shows, and he had one of those Albert Lee Music Man guitars that was white with a rosewood neck, and I was like, oh, that looks so awesome. And I was like, I need to build a guitar, and I ended up building that off of that color combo, which is funny.
Really cool. Let's see. Most of them, a lot of the stuff we've already covered. A lot of it was Grabber build stuff that we've already talked about.
I did a lot of talking.
It's a podcast. It's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's true.
It gets weird when you don't talk. That's when it gets weird.
Yeah.
Andrew also said, tell him he's my favorite bassist. I'll fanboy from a distance if I'm allowed. LOL. So, that's pretty much it. Everything else we already touched on. And I'm sure I'll get questions later that if they're really, really important, I'll text you, and then we'll
just hit me up.
But we're pretty much to the end, and I haven't got into the classic questions and all that. Before I do that, this is kind of your chance to tell everyone anything you want to tell them, like where they can find you, or if something's on your mind, or whatever you want. This is your chance to plug stuff.
Well, if you haven't had a chance to check out Thrice, please check it out. I don't know what to tell you, where to start, but we have a record called Palms that came out almost 2 years ago, and we are working on a new one right now. We're recording demos and kind of sharing ideas at the moment. And hopefully someday in not too distant future, you come see us live, because that's kind of, I don't know. I always listen back to records that we've done and be like, oh, this is what people think this song sounds like. So the live experience is really, I hope people agree with me, but I think it's like where it's at. So
definitely.
Yeah, and then probably we're kind of focusing on the Thrice stuff right now, but working on less art stuff as well. But it's kind of secondary, because Thrice is the main thing. And Less Art is a band that I play guitar in and not bass. And that's with a couple guys from this band called Kowloon Walled City, which is like a super awesome band. If you haven't had a chance to check them out, it's like heavy, sludgy, like doomy. It's rad. The guy that plays guitar in that, John, who also plays in Less Art, his brain is bananas. Like the stuff that he does on guitar is really cool. And the singer is also from a band called Curl Up and Die. This singer of Less Art is in a band called Curl Up and Die that was a band that we played shows with early on in Thrice's career. So yeah, those are the things I'm doing right now. And I hope that everybody stays safe through this virus thing, and hopefully, if everybody is complying, we can get through it quicker than later. So,
right on, man.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple classic questions, and then we'll wrap this thing up. And slide over for a little Patreon action. So
Sure.
the first one is less controversial. I found it's not that difficult for most people to answer, so this will be interesting. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
I actually use one. It's the bass overdrive. It's the yellow pedal. I really like that for very specific things. Since my bass tone is so mid-rangey, that thing just adds a crap ton of low end and the sizzle that what my bass tone normally just doesn't have. And I use it for, like, we have a song called Hurricane, and there's a part in the choruses where I play chords on the bass, and it just kind of like pushes in a way that's very different. Yeah, and I really like it. It's actually a pretty versatile pedal, even though it's kind of like the metal zone of bass pedals. But it's great. Also, the metal zone is early Thrice favorite for sure.
Well, metal zone is, it's a classic. It just gets a bad rap because it can be a little hard to dial in. That's all.
For sure.
It's a great pedal.
If you want, I don't know if everybody else calls it this, but we used to call it jump. Like the jump was the name of the palm muting sound that you get, and the metal zone was the perfect jump.
Jump sounds like the grandfather to gent. That must be
yes. Pre-gent is Grandpa Jump.
Grandpa Jump. Somebody needs to draw the character Grandpa Jump and see what he looks like. That sounds awesome. All right, this is the last question. This is where things get a little dicey sometimes.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Pizza. Well, I have been vegan for 9 years now, so I remember what cheese was like, but I probably can't answer that correctly. But I would say like a marinara pizza. Like what's the style where they cook it super hot, super fast, and there's all the bubbles? Is it
like a brick oven style, like in?
Yeah.
It's like you're talking like.
I'm thinking like. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna like a margarita or something. Is that your jam? Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say a margarita, like it's just olive oil, the marinara sauce, and then like a few like leaves of basil or something on it. That's my jam.
I've had somebody tell me like that there's very specific margarita pizza, and I'm gonna have to remember which episode it was. I'm blanking. That was like very special. And I'm trying to remember.
Was it Tepe?
It might have been Tepe. Was it Tepe? I was trying to think if it was Tepe or if it was. I haven't put this episode out yet, but with Dave Hawes, I was trying to remember if it was him or Tepe. It might have been Tepe though. If there's one that you're thinking of that is.
Yeah, there's this spot in New York.
It was Tepe. Okay.
Una Pizza Napolitana.
Yep.
And they have that margarita pizza. Yeah, that's one of the best that I've ever had. So if you're ever in New York, you should go there if it's still open after all this craziness. But
fingers crossed.
Yeah. End it on a sad note.
Yeah, let's just end it. Oh, we did so good for so. We
did.
We had to go there at the very end, but hey, stay safe out there, everybody. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. For sure.
So everybody, go listen to Thrice. I've been telling you that for years. You know to do that by now. So, all right, everybody. For Ed, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had a good time. and learned some stuff or took away some stuff, or if you're as big of a Thrice fan as I am, that was just a good old time for you. Got a lot more coming your way, so if you've listened to this point and you've enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Rating and reviewing is also appreciated, but sharing with somebody that you care about is the most important thing that you could do. And if you would like more of these conversations, and you would like to support the show in a big way, in possibly the biggest way that you possibly could, go to patreon.com/tonemob, and you will get to hear more of this conversation. Not only that, there's, I don't know, I've lost track of how many at this point, but there's around 80 episodes over there for you of different content. A lot of it is extended interviews with guests. Some of it's good chats with my friend Justin Porter. Some of it's a little bit of demos, like audio-only demos that I really try to put a lot of work into to show off the piece of gear. But lots and lots of more conversation that is very similar to what you're hearing right here on this show. And it honestly helps out a massive amount. So if you can head over to Patreon and support, that starts at just $5 a month, and you're going to get an extra episode of some sort every week. All right, folks. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, wash your hands, all that good stuff. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Honestly, it means so much to me that you guys are tuning into this. It's crazy. I can't understate that. It is literally amazing. All right, everybody. Good night. I say good night because it's nighttime over here, but good whatever it is. Hope you do great today. Hope you have a great, awesome day. Later. Bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.